Hello, are you struggling when the percent problem is flipped? Like when they give you the answer and ask for the total? Well, don't worry because in this video, I'll show you the fastest and easiest way to solve these step by step. Now, if you watched my last video, you learned percent of means multiply, but now we're going backwards. Now, there's a key rule I wish you would pay attention to as we're going throughout this lesson, and that is if percent of means multiply, then to go backwards, we divide. All right, so let's go ahead and solve problem or question 1. 30 is 20% of what number? So we're going to convert percent to decimal. So 20%, and I'll just go ahead and write that here, equals 0.20 or 0.20. The second step is to set up an equation. So we're trying to find out what number. So we're going to say 0.20 times what number. We don't know what that is, so we'll use a variable like n and set that equal to 30. So in order to find that number, we have to divide by 0.20 on both sides. So let's go ahead and do that. 0.20 on the left and on the right. Notice that the 0.20 cancels out on the left, and we are left with n equals 30 divided by 0.20, which is 150. So to answer the question, 30 is 20% of what number? Well, 30 is 20% of 150, and that is the final answer. Now, think about it like this. If 20% is only a part, if 20% is only the part, the total has to be bigger than 30. And that's how you know your answer makes sense. So let's go ahead and move on with problem number 2. So this is a word problem, and it reads, you got 45 questions correct, which is 75% of the test. How many questions were on the test? Okay, so again, just follow the steps. So we have this 75%, and we can convert it into a decimal, which is 0.75. So let's go ahead and do that. 75% equals 0.75. All right, so now let's go ahead and set up our equation because we need to find out how many questions were on the test. We don't know that, so we'll represent that with a variable. So 0.75 times, and we'll use the variable x this time, and set that equal to how many questions you got correct, and that is 45. The next thing you would want to do is to divide. So we're going to divide by 0.75 on both sides. So that is 0.75 on the left and on the right. The 0.75s cancel out, and we are left with x on the left side, our variable, which equals 45 divided by 0.75 is 60. And that is the final answer. How many questions were on the test? There were 60 questions on the test. Okay. Now, here are the mistakes you want to avoid. That is dividing by 20 instead of 0.20, forgetting to convert the percent, and multiplying instead of dividing. Okay, so even in this case, if you're dividing by let's say 75 instead of 0.75, you want to avoid that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to another example, which is our last example here. Okay, so try this one. 24 is 40% of what number? Pause the video and solve it. Okay, so let's go over the answer. So we know that 40% is converted into a decimal as 0.40. And that is 0.40 of what number? So we can use a variable like n, k, x, whatever you choose. It doesn't matter. So we'll go with n equals, and set that equal to 24. All right, so now you'll go ahead and divide to solve for n, which will give you that number. And so we're going to divide by 0.40 on both sides, on the left and on the right. The 0.40s cancel out, and you are left with n equals 24 divided by 0.40 equals 60. That's the final answer. So 24 is 40% of 60. Okay, so now you know how to solve reverse percent problems step by step. Now, if percent of means multiply, then going backwards means divide. So keep practicing and stay tuned for more calm, clear math lessons right here on Math by TV.